Right. Well, we are joined by the legend that is Jon Kilmer. And so, for some of you guys that don't know about this man, he is just somebody that is a larger than life character, someone that you have to go and check out. He's a filmmaker, he's a podcaster, he's a music producer. Just is there anything this man can't do?
If you haven't guessed, by the way, he is a huge fan.
Huge
my
fan of
my
his
girl
voice.
my girlfriend says I can't do a lot of things, so you could probably ask her.
Happy to.
Yeah,
I know that feeling.
Yeah, we'll not try. We'll try not get you in the bad books there. So, like, where we start off with, like, all guests that we have on the podcast is like where it began for you, where you grew up, and how was your upbringing and you growing up and that.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna jump right into it. But first, I met you at a show before, didn't I?
Yeah, so I came across for the final Mike Stud tour. It was I messaged Blue and was like, "Where's the best place to go?" And he was like, "Iowa." So you can Blue was like, "Just go to Iowa." And I was like, "Right." He was like either there or like Minneapolis, and I was like, "Right, Iowa seems like good." So I had to fly to like Chicago, land there, drive.
What did you think of Iowa?
Well, it was Des Moines, and
Yeah,
literally everyone was like lumberjack there. Like we stuck out like a sore thumb because I'm about 5'8", and everyone was either big with a beard.
5'8". Get over yourself.
Everyone was like big with beards, and I was just like, Christ, where am I? And we went into bars and they're like, we've never met an English person. What are you doing here? I was like, oh, I'm here for like a concert. And they're like, what concert there? And I was like, well, Mike Stud's final tour. And they just looked at us like, it was some absolute madman. But to be fair, it was like one of the best experiences, like to go to like that part of America, like the Midwest.
Yeah.
You loved it. He came back and he was just like, "Oh, mate, you should have seen this. This was awesome. I did this. And there's me who's been at work all week. Like, yeah, great.
The amount of attention that we got across there. Like
you're very brave to just go to Des Moines like that. That's very very brave of you. So I'm glad you had a good time.
We ended up in a few random. Yeah, we ended up in a few random bars and like on the drive, and that was like, oh, it's like something out of a horror movie, like driving in. And then I just remember like going on a night out. I don't think you came out that night, but like Mike came out. There was like Blue and Furley and Sarch and stuff like that. And yeah, literally drinks paid for all night, and the amount of girls and the attention and what.
So yes, speaking of girls, my girlfriend is from Iowa. She's from Des Moines, so she actually came to that show. So I had to be on my best behavior. I couldn't run out with the boys. You know, I had to be a good boyfriend. So my apologies on that one. Hopefully in the future you can come to a show where you get to see, you know, me out in the wild.
In your natural habitat.
Yeah, and you'll still get, you know, free drinks all night courtesy of this guy.
Oh, brilliant. I mean, I'll hold you to that. I mean, it was just awesome. Like,
hold on, am I invited to this time?
I mean, I think we went to a place called Beer Can Alley, if I remember rightly.
Beer Can Alley, that's a great bar. That's a hell of a good bar.
I mean, I think if it's the one I think of, it was at the top of a staircase. It was lethal on the way down.
Exactly. I've had a lot of good memories there. I've spent New Year's Eve there for like 2 years in a row. It's so much fun.
Oh, wow. We're going to Iowa next. Let's just do it.
I mean, anywhere out of this country would be absolutely fine by me.
Yeah, Iowa is a really funny place to go if you're from out of the country. So that was a solid choice.
Yeah, courtesy of Blue, that one. He says they're a Minneapolis, so I was like, fair one.
I would have agreed with Blue because that's one of my favorite. That's like one of my favorite places to do concerts. So you picked one of the best places. You did a good job.
Good. I like to hear that.
I'm literally
so sorry.
So jealous.
We can jump into your question. Sorry, I just wanted to get that out of the way because I know I met you before. I just couldn't remember where.
Right. Yeah, it was a true good experience.
Yeah, we're gonna come out to the UK soon too. I mean, we haven't been there since 2014. I think it's been a while. So and when we went there in 2014, it was just like this little pub and like 150 people showed up, and it was pretty wild. Everyone liked to drink there. Everyone had a good time. But we're excited to come back and do it up bigger.
Oh, definitely come to Newcastle. You won't be in just a little pub. Like we will take you out in Newcastle. Big drinkers.
Big drinkers. Yeah. All right, good. We are one of the same. So anyways, where I grew up outside of Boston. in a town called Braintree, which, if I'm not mistaken, there's a Braintree in England as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure that's where the name came from. Braintree is one of the oldest towns in Massachusetts. I think it was founded in like the 1600s, 1630s, or something like that. So a lot of history in that town, but that's where I grew up. It's about 10 minutes outside of Boston. And I was there all the way through high school until I left for college or university, whatever you guys call it, when I was 18.
No, brilliant. And then when you were at school, did you have an interest in like music production or like film production?
I studied film. Film was always my choice to pick as my major in college, and I was always doing music as well on the side, and I was doing it for fun and teaching myself. But film was what I wanted to do since I was maybe 14 years old. So that's what I studied in school.
That's cool.
Yeah, because we see that like you went on to like university to do that, like in Long Island.
Long Island,
Like,
New York. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like I can't pronounce. I think it's Hofstra University that you went to.
Hofstra, yeah, it's a weird word, but yeah, Hofstra. It's not a huge school, but it was it was near New York City, so I was accessible to one of the biggest cities in the country, and it was just far away enough from home where like my mom couldn't come and check up on me whenever she wanted.
Fair enough.
I
was going to say, in England, no matter which university or college or whatever you go to, your mum can always come and visit you. It's literally a few hundred miles away, and they're like, "Oh, we're coming to visit you." And it's like, "Oh, no, don't. Oh, I'm already outside."
Yeah, and you're picking up all the beer cans and shit out of your room. You're like, "Oh no, wait."
Yeah, exactly.
So, like, when you were at university, were you part of like any fraternities and stuff like that?
Yep, I was in a fraternity. I joined my freshman year, so like right from the beginning, I joined. My school was a rather small school, so it just kind of felt like a good social thing to do to kind of get to know people and meet people, and it was a lot of fun. Yeah, the organization I was in was Sigma Alpha Epsilon, and it was a pretty small chapter there. It was only about 40 guys. And I know like in a lot of other schools, it's like 200 or 300 guys. So it was like a tight knit group of guys and who just love to have a good time, love to party. And it's funny, like I look at my life now, like 10 years later, and I'm still living like the exact same life, living with a group of dudes, drinking all the time and having a good time. So my life really hasn't changed much.
Nothing wrong with that at all.
Perfect
lifestyle. I was going to say that's a good lifestyle.
I mean, like when we were growing up, like we like growing up at the time of American Pie, then movies came out, and like
one of my favorite movies. Yeah, one of my favorites.
Same, and like it was just we were so obsessed with like fraternities and stuff like that. So whenever we're in America, we always try and get across into like go to the college campuses, and actually got into one in Santa Barbara, which was pretty fun. That's a good university down there.
Yep, I've been over there. That's a good time. So you guys don't have fraternities or Greek life over there? That doesn't exist?
No, it's literally like it's just a case of you're in a dorm with like a load of other people, and you just knock on each other's door and just say pint, and then next thing you know, you're out from 3 o'clock in the afternoon or 3 o'clock in the morning, and you come back and you start a class at 8 o'clock.
Yeah, a fraternity house is a funny concept. It's just a huge group of dudes living together, and especially at that age, like no one gives a shit about anything other than just raging and partying and all that, and girls and shit. So it's always like a huge mess, and everything's always broken, and there's always holes on the wall. But it's just always like people hanging out with each other. There's always people to hang out with and drink with. So it was a good time. I loved it.
Cool. Brilliant. So like after you finished like uni, did you just stay in New York at that time?
Yeah, so I had an interesting college experience because I was getting my degree in filmmaking, but I was also self-teaching myself like music production on the side. So my sophomore year, I had like a little studio set up in my dorm room, and then junior year, I moved into a fraternity house, and I had my studio equipment in the basement of the fraternity house, and I started working with like artists that went to my school, and that kind of got my foot in the door, really, of just like working with a couple artists, and some of them happened to become sort of well known. So by the time I left college, I kind of had I had a film degree, and I had all this knowledge of music production. So I just moved to New York City and I got a couple internships and I started working for myself, not making much at first, but I moved into this little apartment with one of my best friends that I grew up with. And I just woke up every day and kind of did my own thing and try to, make rent every month. And that's really how my career started.
So like, obviously you've worked like with most notably, like obviously Mike, like as people would know, like used to be Mike Stud, like Huey Mark, High Raise, and Chrissy Webby. But was it true that you crossed paths with Arizona Servas?
Yeah, that's actually a hilarious story. He entered this contest that I had. I used to do these contests back in the day when I was first starting out. And the contest was called Win a Free Music Video with Jon Kilmer. And what I would do is I'd make like a beat and I would post it online and I would say, any rapper that wants to, rap over this beat, I'm going to pick the best one and I'm going to fly you to New York and we're going to do a music video together for free. That was the contest. I did it like 2 or 3 times. And I think this was like the second one I ever did. Arizona Zervas. And back then he actually used to go by Young AZ. That was his name back then. It wasn't, but his name is actually Arizona Zervas. Like that's like his government name. He ended up winning the second contest ever. So he's from Maryland, I believe. And he came up to New York and we spent the day shooting a music video in New York City during the winter when it was like snowing out and everything. And since then, I'm pretty sure he's taken that video down because he looked a lot younger. He still had the baby fat on him, and he was very young back then. But it's crazy to see, years later, he went on to have the biggest song in the country, maybe even the world, for like a couple weeks, which is insane to see.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like it's absolutely insane that you cross paths that early on, and just shows like anything can happen in that space of time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But is it? And did you do like at this time? Was it you toured like documentaries with like Kendrick Lamar and Stevie Aoki, or was that a bit further on?
Yeah, Steve Aoki. Yeah, that's a tour that my friend got me on, and it was like a college tour back in 2013. So I was only a few years out of college, and this was like the craziest thing to me ever. It's like I just kind of went out on my own, and a couple of years later, I get booked to do this 35 city tour for Kendrick Lamar and Steve Aoki in front of like these huge audiences, 10,000 people every night, and just being able to be a part of that touring life on that scale was like so crazy for like a 23-year-old. It's like I'll never forget that. And I can't believe it's been that long since I did that. But that was incredible. That's and this was right when Kendrick Lamar was just starting to become very popular. So he just put out, I forget the name of the album, like Mad City, I think it was called. I'm pretty sure that was the name of the album. It had some big songs that you probably still remember today. But that was good times.
Quite all imagine some of the antics on that tour. But yeah, so like obviously your relationship with Mike grew once you started producing some of his music and like helping him out like with his like music videos and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So how did that like blossom? Like how did you two like gel together and meet off there?
Yeah, so I met Mike super early on. It was like maybe a year after college. So I was still super new and I had worked with a bunch of artists at that point, but no one super big. And I would always go online to these music blogs to see like, who was new, who was kind of new in the scene and everything and up and coming artists. This was before the days of Spotify and, YouTube was like kind of just starting to be popular. So it was harder to find new artists. And that's why these music blogs started popping up and that's how you could find new artists. So I was on there and that's kind of how I picked who I wanted to, reach out to and work with. And he happened to be one of them. And at that point, when I checked him out, he only had one song out and just seemed like someone I would super align with, like seemed like one of the boys, like a total bro and like to have a good time, like to party. So, when we first started working, it was, I think I just sent him like a beat or something. And he ended up making a song over it. And then he came to New York City. We did a music video for it. And then he started getting booked for concerts. So I started filming the concerts and, it just kept one thing after the next. And it was cool to kind of, start with him at like the very earliest stage. Cause we kind of got to, move up in the game together and to kind of experience like the rise in his notoriety over the years from literally like nothing to where it is today. So that's really how it started. It started with me emailing him. That's it.
Wow.
Literally all the start from an email. That's
You
what,
never
that's what
know.
you do.
Yeah, you just never know.
That's what he does. He just emails loads of people, and he's just like, hopefully someone will respond. Like it's like you're looking for friends. Like,
yeah, that's how you got to do it, though.
Yeah, that's how we met. So where did you move after basically New York? After all this, after you met Mike Gruen?
I did the New York thing for probably 5 years, and then at that point, I was working with Mike pretty steadily for a while, and we all decided to move to Los Angeles together, just because the entertainment industry, especially in music, is just a lot more prevalent in Los Angeles. So we decided to all live together. We went across the coast, and we just got a place, and we lived there for the next 5 years after that. And that again, like that's when the whole new frat house started of all the boys living together again. And it was a good place to spend your 20s. It was a lot of fun.
Is that because we obviously watch like your podcasts on like YouTube and things like that? Is that the house in LA that you're in when you're filming?
That was the second house we were at. So the first place we went to was kind of right like in the center of things. It was in West Hollywood, California. It's called the Sunset Strip. It's like a very famous kind of like music venue area. And in like the 70s and 80s, it was like a big scene for music and partying and stuff like that. It's kind of settled down a little since then, but we lived in like this kind of a condo, like 4 of us lived in this little condo there for the first 2 years. And then we eventually, we moved out to the suburbs and got kind of a bigger house, which is the one you're talking about where we did the podcast. And we spent our last 3 years at that place.
That's really cool. We were watching some just before and stuff like that. We were absolutely creasing ourselves at some of the stuff that you were talking about.
I was barreled over at one of the stories of I think you were talking on one of the episodes where you went to Canada and got stopped at the border.
Oh yeah, the full anal cavity search. Yep, that was a fun one.
It was just your French accent and everything. I was on the floor crying with that one.
I mean, by all means, if you want to share that story, that's.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely. I love telling that story just because it just makes me laugh, and it's.
It makes him laugh as well. So
it's just always been such a challenge for us to get into Canada. For whatever reason, they don't like musicians and tour buses, and I think they used it as an excuse to kind of like go in there to try to find weed or whatever. And for whatever reason, whenever we cross the border, they give us a hard time, and we end up having to sit in the border patrol for like 5 or 6 hours while they rip our tour bus apart to try to find anything they can get their hands on. And they never really find anything crazy. They'll find like a little nugget of marijuana or like, I don't know, some like CBD gummies or something, and then for whatever reason that's like a huge deal to them. I don't know why, but the last time we were there, we were trying to cross into Toronto, I believe. Or no, I think we're trying to cross into Vancouver on the other side of Canada. And for the first time, they brought a drug dog, a big German Shepherd, to like sniff all of us to see if we had drugs like hidden on us somewhere. And this was totally new. They had never done this to us before over the years. And I'm like, I'm not going to call anyone out, but I'm the last guy to have drugs on me, especially going through a border patrol. Like I'm not that stupid. I would never do that. So I think I'm going to be good. And this dog's like coming up one by one behind every single person. And when he comes up to me, the dog sniffs me and then he takes a seat and he just sits there. And I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? And then these two French Canadian officers are like, sir, you're going to have to come with me back, like in the back. So these 2 French officers, they bring me in the back and I have no idea what's going on. I'm like, what the fuck do they think I have on me? They bring me into this little room and they just let me like sit there for 20 minutes. And it's like this like little, like this little tiny room with no windows. And I'm just sitting in there. I'm like, what is going to happen to me? I'm so confused. So these 2 French officers, they walk into the room and they're like, all right, listen, our dog thinks you have drugs on you. We don't want to do this any more than you want to do this, but you're going to have to take 1 article of clothing off at a time whenever we ask you to and hand it over to us. So I'm like, all right, fuck it. So, first it starts with like, take your shirt off. And I'm like, okay, take the shirt off, hand it to them. They kind of feel around the shirt. They put it down. They're like, all right, pants, please. And I hand them my pants, and they're feeling the pants, nothing in the pants. Now I'm just down to my underwear. And I'm like, I knew it was coming. I was like, all right, I guess here we go. They're like, all right, give me your underwear. And the joke's on them, because at that point I probably hadn't showered for 3 or 4 days. So there was probably all a bunch of skid marks on there and poop stains and stuff from tour. And they probably had a reek to high hell. So I take the underwear off, and I'm kind of cupping my balls and my penis to make sure I'm not hanging out. And I hand them the gross underwear, and they start feeling those. Nothing in there. So I'm just standing there butt naked in the corner of the room with these 2 guys. And I thought that was going to be it. Honestly, I'm like, all right, like, you had your fun. Let me go give my clothes back. But then they said, in like the creepiest French accent ever, he was like, okay, I'm going to need you to turn around, bend over, and spread your cheeks. I was like, excuse me. So I had to do what they say. I turned around, I bent over, and I spread my ass cheeks so they could see my butthole. And they, one of them came up and bent down and looked up my butthole with a flashlight, and no drugs in there. And then finally, the one that I was trying to keep a straight face during all this, because it was just so uncomfortable for me and like so silly. Like I'd never been in this situation before. I mean, even back in high school, like I didn't shower with other guys because it made me uncomfortable. And here I am in this like little room with 2 French guys telling me to get naked. So I'm super uncomfortable. My skin's crawling. And I think that's finally it. But then they had me turn around, and they're like, okay, well, before you leave, I'm going to need you to, lift your sack. I'm like, lift my sack. So then I had to take my dick and my ball sack and just lift it up so they could literally look to see if there's drugs under my actual ball sack, which there were not. So that was the.
It would be impressive if there were.
Yeah. What if I was like, oh damn, you freaking find it, you found it. Anyways, that was my experience getting into Canada, and these are the things we do for our fans so we can put on a good show.
That sounds like a typical Saturday night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
so
going on to that story, because that's all from like so the reason I found you guys out was from Torrance Boring.
Yep.
I was just on YouTube one day, and I think one of Mike's songs come up, and then I clicked on Torrance Boring. I was like, this guy, that lifestyle they live, I was like, I have to experience it. And I remember coming back, and I was like, saying that he was going on tour for the final time. I was like, we've got to fly across and say it. And so how did Torrance Borings come about?
Yeah, so Torrance Boring is a kind of like a vlog series about our touring life, and we started it like right from the very beginning. So in the very beginning, I mean, we started from the very bottom, and we started doing shows in America at these like little bars in front of like 100, 200 people everywhere we went. And we were independent, no music label, so we were kind of running the business ourselves. And there was only 4 or 5 of us, and we didn't know what the fuck we were doing. We were brand new to music. We were brand new to touring. And all I knew is I was there to film. That's it. Like, my job was to go there, bring my camera, and just film whatever happened. And basically what happened is we didn't know what the fuck we were doing. We got drunk. We forgot to get the check at the end of the night. We lost our car keys. We didn't know. It was just one tragedy after the next. But after watching the footage, we were like, oh, this is actually kind of funny. I think people are going to really enjoy us fucking up like our job and not doing a good job. So we started like making these funny little interviews about him, saying like, oh yeah, last night we went out, we totally crushed it. We, we're very professional. We know exactly what we're doing. And then we'd show footage of like our DJ, like totally passed out in a bush, like not knowing where the car keys are. And it was just like that night after night, man, in the early days. And I think people found a lot of humor out of it. And then I'm sure the stuff that you liked was, just showing all the partying and stuff that happened outside of the concerts. Yeah. And, because we would just, we would go to bars afterwards and just invite the whole crowd there. We're saying, hey, all right, we're going to this bar, and whoever wants to come meet us there. So we'd bring out like, a couple hundred people to a bar every night, and we would party with them. We'd be buying them drinks, we'd be hanging out, and I'd just be filming the whole thing. I don't know why these bars let me bring my camera in, but a lot of times they did. And or if we went to some party, I'd bring my camera with me, and I just got to capture all the madness and then put it on the internet. And I think that's what got a lot of people wanting to come to the shows, because they know they could, come party with us after the concerts, which was a big part of what we did.
Yeah, most definitely. But joking, it led to a TV show for you guys, though.
Yes, yeah, it led to a TV show. We worked like many years on trying to turn it into a TV show. We probably spent 2 years, going to all these meetings with TV networks and with production companies, and we took a long time to do it, because we didn't want to do it with someone like an MTV or a VH1 who they don't really give you creative control, so they can make you look like a total asshole, and there's nothing you can do about it. And we didn't want that. So we kind of waited for a network to come around that gave us creative freedom to make the type of show we wanted to make. So we didn't, I mean, no offense to like the Jersey Shore or anything like that, but we just didn't want it to be that type of show. We wanted to just be like a clear representation of like who we are and what we do. So we ended up doing it with a smaller network, and we had a huge part in the creative process. And it was probably after we had been doing Touring's Boring for about four years or so. And then, in 2016, we went out on like a 40-city tour. The TV crew followed us the entire time. And you can check out that show today anywhere where you can rent stuff, like Apple or Amazon, or it was called This Is Mike Stud. And I guarantee whoever watches it, you're going to love it. And it's it's just one of the most honest, organic, funny TV shows ever, of just us trying to navigate going through like this tour like back in 2016.
I think I'm definitely going to start watching that, to be fair.
Yeah, I promise you, it's entertaining.
It's awesome.
But so obviously, like you used to live in like New York, and then you moved to LA. So like for somebody like a creative person like yourself, how do you find LA in comparison to New York?
Yeah, they're completely different. They're 100% opposite from one another. New York is very compact. Everyone's like on top of each other. The buildings are really tall. It's more corporate. People are kind of living more regimented lives. Everyone's doing the 9-to-5 work day and taking their lunch break in the middle of the day, and everyone's in a rush to get somewhere. And it has like a really, really intense energy to it. Not necessarily bad energy, but a very intense energy of everyone's just out trying to do something. And there's so many people. Whereas LA also, it's a big city, but it's so spread out. Everything's more chill, relaxed. No one's in a rush to get anywhere. Since it's spread out, the traffic is terrible. Everyone's always driving somewhere. But you have the beaches, and it's just like, it never rains. It's sunny every day. It's 80 degrees Fahrenheit and sunny every day. And it's just, it just doesn't have that same energy New York does, as far as like the intensity. So two places were very different. And I'm kind of thankful that I had both experiences when I did.
That's cool. I love how you mentioned the nice sunny weather, and I just, as soon as you said it, I looked outside and went, "Yep, 14 degrees and cloudy." So it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So where you are now, do you find it a lot easier to like network and like
when you were like living in LA, was it easier to network, like meet people? Because
being in a more music...
If anyone checks your Instagram, you're seeing like famous faces at like the house on a regular basis. So do you find LA like easy to network and like get together and work with people and bounce ideas off each other?
Yeah, that's why we went there. It's because you're exposed to like everyone in the industry. And I enjoyed spending my early years in New York, because I got to work with so many up and coming artists that weren't really on the map yet, but were just kind of getting their feet off the ground. And New York had plenty of that. But when you get to LA, like that's when you kind of get like the next kind of echelon of people who like, people go to Los Angeles with stars in their eyes trying to make it. That's just like that's what Hollywood is. That's what LA is. So you just get so much of that out there. And, anyone who's really established in music anyways, they're out in Los Angeles. That's just where they are. So, I mean, that's kind of the reason why we went there. And the 5 years we were there, I mean, we met so many people and started so many relationships that we wouldn't have been able to do if we didn't live there. So it was definitely important that we spent that time there.
But someone that you met like early back on in the day before you moved to LA was Louis Bell.
Lou Bell, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
for those that don't know, I mean, Lou Bell, he's one of the biggest music producers, songwriters out right now. I mean, he's worked with everyone. But I mean, a lot of people don't know that. I mean, he grew up 10 minutes from me. He went to school with my brother, and he was just kind of like a local guy that kind of came up in the music scene when I was young and when I was coming up. And Mike started working with him very early on, before he started having all these big credentials and placements with big artists. And he's actually one of the people we kind of moved out to LA with. I mean, he kind of came out there the same time we did. And he got introduced to the right people, and people saw how talented he was. And, that's how he kind of started working with all these big names. So it was really cool to see him come up as well, because I literally saw him working from like this shitty little studio, the town over that I grew up from, to like, working with people like Taylor Swift and Justin Bieber, maybe less than 10 years later. So seeing that come up was really crazy.
That's insane. And like, whenever you get the chance, do you ever get to pick his brain and work together, like bounce ideas off each other, like as a music producer like yourself?
Well, it definitely a couple of years ago. Yeah. I mean, we left Los Angeles about 8 months ago. So we don't see anyone over there anymore. We haven't in a while anyways. Like we kind of decided we didn't want to be in that city anymore. And we've kind of been traveling around ever since. But definitely years ago. Yeah. I mean, it was great to be able to see his workflow and the way he goes about making music. It was, I mean, that's like an amazing privilege I've had, not just with Lou, but with a bunch of producers that, either Mike's worked with over the years or that I've just been in the same room as, just being able to see how they work, which is another reason why LA is so great. Because if I was in New York, I wouldn't have been able to do that. So that was great.
Oh, no, that's fantastic. So, like, obviously, you created your own film, like back in, was it 2017, The Primrose?
That was 2018, I think. Yeah, 2018, I think. Yeah.
And like, I actually remember dropping you a message about that because you were looking for. I was saying that I knew some people like down in London, and that you were trying to get like exposure for your thing. So you emailed the movie across, and I remember watching it, and I was like, it's quite like a representation of like how you and the boys were like together, sort of thing, like with the party lifestyle and like all about college sort of thing. But like, you started a Kickstarter for that to get people to like donate money to help fund the project.
Yep.
So like, what did that like? How did that feel that people were willing to like set out their own money to help you like fund the project?
That's just one of the benefits of having an incredible fan base over the years that I'm very grateful for, because I know a lot of people don't have that luxury. And most of the people that did donate were, fans of us over the years. So, when I took the step to follow one of my dreams to make a movie, and to see that type of support from people, a lot of people who I probably never even met before, it was just, it was a very special feeling. And we probably raised, around $20,000. And that was like the majority of the budget that I had to make the movie. And I couldn't have done it without that type of support. So I was just insanely grateful for it. It was one of the best, probably the best experiences of my life was making that, because it was the first step to like my dream of becoming a filmmaker on like the feature length level.
Yeah, definitely. Like, obviously, like whenever you do something for the first time, it's like an experience. Like when we did our first podcast episode, like we knew it wasn't going to be great, but like, once you get your foot in the door, things become easier and stuff like that. But like, it just helps you, and you can transfer your experience into the future projects that you do. And so it's like good for you in that sense. But one question I've got to ask was, the main character is called Steve in it. Was that like a coincidence or?
No, of course I called him Steve because of our fans are the Steves and we're all Steves, so I had to call my main character Steve. I mean, we have a dog named Steve. It's just I mean, you're wearing, is that a Stone Cold Steve Austin shirt you're wearing?
It most certainly is.
Yeah, so we're all Steves here. I mean, you know the drill. No coincidences there.
Yeah, it's not like you bought this T-shirt to talk to you.
I've been watching the WWE Network recently, and
yeah,
he's like this whole thing.
Steve, sure.
But yeah, like I read on the internet that like you got your final dream of actually filming in the Playboy Mansion.
I did get to film at the Playboy Mansion. Yeah, that was probably one of the best moments of my life. I mean, besides making a movie, that's a close number 2.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to tell us about that. What was that like?
Something that's a distant dream for all of us.
Yeah, no, and you know what? They sold the Playboy Mansion, so it's no longer the Playboy Mansion. It's done. Someone bought it, and that was a sad day to see the Playboy Mansion no longer be the Playboy Mansion. So I'm glad I got to actually go, because that was just, I mean, that's every man's fantasy, I think. And I got hired to do some like corporate event that was being held there, and part of like the whole gig is that whenever you have an event there, they just like fill the place with girls no matter what. That's part of what they offer at the Playboy Mansion is if you spend money to have an event there, they'll just fill it with like 200 girls, no questions asked, and they'll all be like in bikinis, and it's like, because they want to like live up the legend of the Playboy Mansion, you know. So I was there, I was with my camera again, I got full clearance to film everywhere. A lot of it wasn't indoors. It was their backyard, and like is like a huge yard, and that's where they have the grotto, like the little like heated pool like in the rocks and stuff like that. And they have like a full zoo in the back of all these like spider monkeys and like weird animals and stuff like that are just kind of roaming around. The whole place was like very magical. It's kind of like an adult Disneyland. And I got to bring the boys with me. I got to bring Mike, and I think Lou Bell was there with us, and all our other buddies were there. So that was fucking fantastic. I have some stories I probably can't share, but we were there for probably 12 hours at the very least. We were there for a long time, so we were good and drunk, and we were getting in lots of mischief.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I mean, I love the fact they had spider monkeys. Like, just just come to the Playboy Mansion. We've got our own spider monkey. I mean, the most exotic thing that we have in England is probably a badger. It's crazy. It's just like if we had a Playboy Mansion, we'd have like a nice enclosure of maybe a fox and a couple of badgers. It's just like, ooh. And they wouldn't be in bikinis. They would be in full like jogging pants and like massive jackets because it's so damn cold over here. Sorry, I'm getting off topic only because I'm so jealous of the weather. I keep looking outside and it's just making me depressed.
Yeah, no, it's that's really the only perk of LA is like it never rains ever. It's just always sunny every day. So whenever it rains once, everyone freaks out. They're like, "Oh, I can't go outside. It's raining."
Ironically, we freak out every time the sun comes out. We don't know what to do.
Yeah, I'm from Boston, and Boston weather is not amazing. The winters are very cold and the summers are very hot, and it snows a lot. And that's what I was used to all these years. And then you go to LA, and it's just like, oh my god, like everyone's spoiled out here. They probably don't even appreciate it.
I bet.
So like after you did the final Mike Stud tour, and you guys were sort of transitioning away from that, you set up your own podcast, like YNK, yeah, you know what I mean? And how did that come about? Like whose idea was that to set that up, and what was the purpose behind that?
Yeah, that was probably a couple of years ago. Podcasting was already getting pretty popular about 2-3 years ago. We were always fans of like the Joe Rogan podcast and those type of podcasts. We would always watch them at the house, and it just started to become, I think Joe Rogan really paved the way when his shows really started to take off, and we loved his interviews and the guests they had on. And he just had so many interesting conversations, not necessarily with celebrities, but just with interesting people who knew like really cool stuff. So that was part of the reason. And then I think COVID was another reason. We weren't able to do a music tour for like over a year. And that kind of just gave us an excuse to start a podcast and do it regularly, because we never had to leave for tour at any time. We were just kind of stuck home for over a year. And that's really the reason why, probably one of the biggest catalysts of why we started it. And yeah, now looking back, I mean, that was probably around 2 years ago.
That's crazy.
And obviously, because of like you guys' popularity and stuff, you've had some like amazing guests on there, like Jared Goff, Travis Kelce, Johnny Manziel, and Larry King, like Larry the King. Legend that is Larry King.
I know, when we saw they had Larry King on, oh, that's incredible.
That was a little out of body experience for me, because I was producing this interview with Larry King, who's one of the biggest interviewers of all time. He's I think he on record has interviewed over like 50,000 people in his lifetime. Rest in peace. He recently just passed, unfortunately, but we were probably one of the last people to ever interview him. And he was so gracious enough to come to our house and do the interview, and just such a great guy. And it was such a wild experience to gain all that knowledge from a guy like that, who's had this tremendous life. So I'm super grateful for that. That was, I'm getting chills just talking about it.
I mean, yeah, sadly he passed away, and but honestly, to be one of the last people to actually interview him, and it's just so cool that he just come around to do a podcast with you guys. That just shows his kind of character, that he's just like, yeah, I'll come join you guys and we'll do this.
100%. Yeah. And his interview was great. I mean, if anyone listening to this podcast, if you want to take time to listen to it, I mean, it's YNK podcast, Larry King. I mean, the guy is just filled with knowledge and life experience. You'll definitely take a few pages out of his book if you watch it. And it motivated me anyways, in many ways.
Yeah. We're just saying, we love how you become more accessible with fans, like hotline, your tour stories, and like things like that. Like a lot of people kind of listen to you and they can relate to you as well, especially like college people.
Yeah, I mean, look at you guys. You're across the pond, and I'm amazed that you guys have even heard about it or check it out. Not to mention people in my own country. So it's like, I never take that for granted. I just think that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I mean, like, we appreciate so much that you've actually taken the time to come out and speak to us, because I mean, like, Blaine, I'm not even kidding, Blaine has written so much down about you and stuff like that. He was really excited, and he was like, the reason I'm not talking as much is because he said to me, like, I'm going to do this interview because you're probably going to like completely cock this up. So
he's like, chill out, buddy, I got this.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the only reason I've been quiet, and I've just needed to say that just in case you thought like, man, this look like this big fat guy next to him is a little bit silent. So that's not been the case.
No, I didn't think that.
No, but it's absolutely a class to have you come on and take time, especially on how busy you are.
No, of course. And how long have you guys been podcasting for?
We started the idea a year ago, but because of COVID, because we don't live in the same household, we weren't allowed to start it. So literally, it's only been the last couple of months we finally got it planned, got our episode, started doing like YouTube videos. So that's it. With this is you're coming out, and just so everyone knows, this is our second episode that you're featured on, which makes it more exciting for us, to be honest.
No, beautiful.
Someone like you on a second episode.
I'm happy to jump on anytime with you guys, and I just love that people are starting podcasts in general, because it's the only way people really sit and talk anymore. No one sits and have real like human conversations anymore, and it's a great excuse to kind of hang out with your buddy and shoot the shit. Exactly. So I think it's wonderful what you guys are doing. I mean, I had a podcast back in like 2014 when I still lived in New York with one of my best friends, and it was just like a great excuse to meet up and shoot the shit and have a beer and just talk about shit. It was podcasting is just a great thing. I think everyone should do.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what we're doing.
But it's funny that you should mention that, because like back during like the lockdown, you set up like the Paulina Cup.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
And like that was just a quality idea that you had. Like I don't know if you want to tell the story of how that came about, like how you did like the celebrity one first and some of the people that featured on that, and then you did it to where like fans could then buy into it?
Yeah. So, I mean, the Blaine Cup is, it originally started as a virtual beer pong tournament with celebrities to raise money for COVID relief,
Nice.
which is I'm going to give Mike all the credit to that one because that was his idea. It's a wacky idea. No one's ever played beer pong virtually before, I don't think, and I think he kind of came up with the idea, and unfortunately, because of COVID, everyone was stuck at home, including athletes and anyone who no one could do anything for a whole year basically. And this was kind of right in the beginning of COVID, so a lot of sports seasons were canceled and music tours were canceled, and no one really had anything to do. So Mike had the bright idea of like, hey, I'm going to call all my celebrity friends and we're going to do a celebrity beer pong tournament on Instagram Live. And we're just going to raise a bunch of money for COVID relief. And we got a bunch of people to do it. I mean, we got a bunch of professional athletes like Travis Kelce, his buddy Marcus Stroman. And then he got some crazy musicians like Machine Gun Kelly and Morgan Wallen and the YouTubers, the Nelk Boys. I mean, the list goes on of all like these crazy people he got to do this, and they all played on their own Instagram lives. And these are people with millions of followers. So the outreach for this was incredible. I mean, I forget what the numbers were, but millions and millions of people tuned in to watch this play virtual beer pong, which I think is so silly, but it's so incredible. So that's how the Blaine Cup started. And then we kind of ran with that name and that brand, and we eventually made it into a tournament that anyone could enter, but it was more of like a buy-in tournament where everyone always says they're the best beer pong player. So now you can put your money where your mouth is. You can enter for a couple $100, and the winner wins like thousands of dollars for whoever wins the tournament. So we've been doing that for a while, and that's been a fun thing for our fans, and really for anyone that just likes to gamble and play beer pong. It's do you guys have beer pong over there? Is that a thing you guys do?
Well, funnily enough, we actually me and him had a game on Saturday night.
Yeah. Is that common? Is that common over there? Is that
no, not at all. It's just because of Blaine. Like he's pretty much half American. Like he's got that
got like the whole like Statue of Liberty, like everything on the arm, like just
for anyone listening, he is showing off his arm.
He's like, I just have the Statue of Liberty right here.
Yeah. But no, like it's not a massive thing across here. So like whenever we go across to America, we'll get like wiped the floor with like Flip Cup as well. Like that's not a thing across here. But again, like Ring of Fire, all them sort of games.
Yeah, I mean, America hasn't brought much to the world, but beer pong's one of them. That's a good one.
It is a good game. It was good fun, and I just need to say I beat him as well. So
hey, it's a difficult game, man. Beer pong is a very difficult game. It's anything could happen, So it's just no matter how good you get, you can still be humbled and lose.
Right. Exactly. I mean, Americans are like a different breed of people. Like we just like we were looking and like was showing Alex like the chug buds that you do. Absolutely like an amazing like little like literally this like a small thing that you fit on the top of a can. So simple, yet no one had thought of it ever before.
Like I mean it's basically a combination of a beer bong and like a shotgun. Where it's like a mini beer bong that's suction cups on top of a beer can. And when you start drinking out of it, you have a little key that you can just poke a hole at the top. So it creates that airflow. So you're just drinking beer as fast as humanly possible. You could probably down one in about 4 seconds, which, as if we couldn't get fucked up enough. Now we can get really fucked up.
Hey, you can do it twice as fast. I love that.
But like that had like loads of success on that there. Like every time that you release like a new edition of it or a collaboration, like they sell out like instantly.
Yeah, and just to kind of pay a little homage to our fan base. I mean, one of our fans created that device. Like we didn't create it. Right. One of Mike's fans just invented it and then came to Mike and was like, hey, I want you to like do an Instagram of this like beer chugging thing. And then we all used it, and we were like amazed by how incredible it was. And then, you know, Mike ended up buying the company, and now he kind of runs the whole thing. But you know, that's been a thing we've been doing for the past couple of years, and it's gotten tremendously popular. Tons of kids on like TikTok are making videos about it, and all these celebrities are using it, and I think it's going to get even bigger. I think it's going to be even a bigger thing. So that's called the Chug Bud. So definitely keep a lookout on that. And if you don't have one, definitely cop one, because you won't be disappointed.
Yeah, I think you've got some on order, haven't you?
I've tried to order one, but it's like resale. Like they go for so much as well, but it's worth it.
Yeah, especially these days, we just need to get fucked up as fast as humanly possible.
Exactly. Yeah, you've got to have some sort of entertainment in your life, and down in a pint can or something like that in 3 seconds, that's going to be my challenge.
Challenge accepted.
I'll tell you what we should do next time when we get you on a Zoom interview. We'll do a challenge where who can drink like 4 big cans as fast as they can. First one to.
Oh, geez. Yeah, that would definitely fuck me up pretty good. 4 big cans. Jeez.
I call that a starter. So
now, do you guys is like, because obviously we have like light beer over here. Light beer is like a big thing over here. Everyone drinks light beer. Is that like shunned over there? Are you like a huge pussy if you drink light beer over there in England?
No, not at all. Blaine drinks Bud Light and actually, yeah, that makes
Bud Light, Coors Light, Miller Light.
Oh, so that's pretty popular over there. Okay.
Yeah, Bud Light's just started coming about over the past couple of years, and like White Claw, like we don't get the proper White Claw across here as such. So we get like Mike's Hard, whatever it is, and then like Bud Light seltzers. But they're such a good invention, like seltzers, like they get you so messed up so quickly.
Yep. Yeah, definitely good invention. But yeah, I mean, I haven't been over there in a long time, and I know you guys pride yourselves on your beer and your drinks and stuff like that. So that's why I was curious.
If it's American, I'll love it. Like that's the thing. Like anything.
Yeah. And I want to go on record. I'm a huge fan of Bud Light, but I do admit it is pretty shitty. It's by no means like a very good beer, but you can drink a lot of them, which is why I like drinking them.
Yeah.
You can drink 10 and still drive.
Yeah, exactly. I
not
can't
promoting
say
that. Yeah, not promoting that whatsoever.
Not promoting that, but I may have done that a few times in my life. Oh shoot! Hold on 1 second.
Yeah,
sorry,
on the record.
Is that Bud Light in there? I was going to say in that picture, it's just come up on your screen. There was someone drinking the Bud Light as well. So
yeah, hold on. So what do you guys got going on the rest of the day?
Well, after this, we'll probably be going to bed because it's like late.
6-hour difference. That's right.
Yeah. But that literally that's our Tuesday night. That's how exciting things get for us. Yeah. So
yeah, it's a weekday. It's all right.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Hold on. I don't know if he's going to say yes, but Mike, we have some huge fans from across the pond in the UK. Do you want to say hello?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
What's up, boys?
Oh, hello.
Things.
How we doing, boys?
Really
too bad.
Literally a bit starstruck.
I know they're rattled right now. This guy right here, he's from the UK.
Uh-huh.
He heard about the last Mike Stud tour. He asked Blue which city he should come to, and Blue said Des Moines, Iowa. And he came all the way to Des Moines, Iowa. That's where I met him.
Why did you ask Blue?
I don't know. I don't even know if he could spell it properly as well.
There's no way. I can't believe you made it.
Yeah, well, it was. He says he would go there in Minneapolis.
Yeah, I know.
I love that. Nice to meet you, boys, man. I appreciate y'all. What are you doing? A podcast?
I'm on their podcast.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm on now, baby.
Yeah. Happy to have
you
you on as
well. You got one question to ask me. What is it?
Oh, go on, Blaine. I know that you want something.
Well, we're a country music podcast, so we know that you've made the move to like Nashville.
Yeah.
So, like, how have you found the move, like a transition from LA and to work with certain artists? Like, if you can work with certain artists out there, who would they be?
Yeah. I mean, we're a lot. You've been to a show, so you could probably agree. It's our fan base, even though I never made country music, it always kind of felt like a country crowd and concert in the sense of like just beer drinking and tailgating and that type of vibe. So Nashville is definitely way more fitting for us. I feel like I think all the guys agree to. It's just like a better vibe. We're more that speed, you know. So it's a no-brainer to live there, and I'm definitely like gravitating. It's not country music, but it's just the same feelings country music gives you, you know, like the shit you want to drink beers to, and you know, ride in the car, and you know, I'm not really making club music. It's more like bar music. So
Yeah.
that's why not live at the place with the bars versus the clubs, you know? So it's a no-brainer. And then Morgan, I think, is the best country music artist by far. I think there's a lot of great guys, but he's just, as long as he can stay out of jail and not smash his head through too many car windows, I think he'll have an amazing career, and will be a storied guy like people will remember for a long time. So we have plans to make music together. So we'll see. You never know.
100%.
That's
Well,
awesome.
I think when I came to your concert in Des Moines, Ernest, well, he was called Ernest K at the time, but Ernest is like out and about now, and he's got some amazing songs out. So
100%. He's that was before he even really got going, you know. But now since then, I think he's written 3 #1 songs in the country space, and super respected in that space and in the community. So yeah, I saw it with him right away, you know. And he understood what I was trying to do with the music and where it was going. So that's my boy.
exactly.
Awesome.
Yes, sir. Nice to meet you guys,
Yeah,
man. Cheers.
nice to meet you. Thanks very much for coming on.
Love it. Of course.
Well, thanks for that.
Caught you guys off guard there.
Yeah, just took us by surprise by that one.
You guys look like a deer in headlights.
That was awesome. That was so cool. Thank you for that.
Oh no, of course. We're just we're out here in Texas. We're just we're just still trying to recover from the weekend.
Yeah, fair one.
No, like, so, like, just going back to yourself, like, and like, it's like one of like final questions, but how did you get working with 44 Phantom?
So he was this was probably about a year and a half ago. One of my buddies who I was friends with in LA, he sent me like a link to one of his songs, and I didn't know anything about him. He didn't really have a lot of music out. He was only 17 years old, and I heard the song, and like 10 seconds into it, I was like, oh yeah, this kid's going to be a massive star. Like, I just knew immediately, you know. It's I think I've been in the industry long enough where I can hear the potential in pretty much anything. And I heard the potential 10 seconds into one song. So I agreed to start working with him, and we spent probably a year or so developing his sound and, you know, working on some music and starting to get like more original music out for him. And a year later, or a year and a half later, actually this past February, he signed his first record deal. And it was like a very big record deal with Sony Music under Columbia. And he's starting to do some big things. So I definitely, I urge anyone to check out all the music he's putting out now, 44 Phantom. He's a really, really great singer.
Awesome.
And so would you prefer doing stuff like that, like working with artists, and like, or would you prefer just to do like, yeah, if you had a choice of doing film or like music, which one would you pick?
This has been my fucking challenge for like 15 years now. I can't pick one. It's like having 2 hot wives. It's like I can't just marry one of them. I want to marry both of them. I want to have threesomes all the time. I have these 2 loves of my life, and I know that if I picked one, I'd probably excel at it a lot faster. But I mean, life's too short, you know. If you have, I mean, some people don't even get one passion in their life, and I have so many. So I'm going to chase all of them as much as I can without driving myself crazy. And I'm going to love the process the entire time. So to answer your question, I wouldn't rather do one or the other. I'm just going to keep doing all of it.
I'll be honest with you, I think that's a perfect answer. I think that's absolutely brilliant. I mean, you do so well in both of them, so why just choose one? Like,
yeah, become like jack of all trades.
Yeah,
that's the old way of thinking, you know. Like back in the day, you had to pick one trade and you had to just get really good at it, and then you spent your entire life doing that one thing.
Yeah.
And now, like, people are getting more compensated for having multiple skills, and it's easier to have multiple skills now because you can just hop on YouTube and learn how to do something in 10 minutes. versus like 50 years ago, you had to go to some trade school and they had to teach you in person, and it was a whole thing. Now you can, you could learn something new every month, and you could probably be a pro at it like in a couple of years if you really applied yourself. So it's a new time, and I'm grateful that I have access to all like this information where I can keep getting better at stuff so quickly.
Yeah, do you know what? That's actually such an inspiring thing just to finish on. I don't want to ask any more questions than that. I genuinely think that was a perfect finish there. So thank you for that. But there is only one thing, and we just want to play a very quick game with you.
Yeah.
And I'm going to let Blaine do this one, but I'll explain exactly what it is. It's called rapid response.
Okay.
So we've got 10 questions, two possible answers, and it's just the first thing that comes to your head. So just as quick as you can, just whatever comes to your head first.
So you're giving me 2 different answers I got to pick from?
That's right. Yeah.
Cool.
So they're sort of like based on yourself anyway.
Okay.
So first off, Bud Light or White Claw?
Bud Light.
Rock bands or boy bands?
Wow. Rock bands, but I do love boy bands.
Well,
we've just asked this one, but music production or film production?
Threesome.
That's class.
Motley Crue or Steel Panther?
Motley Crue, because if there was no Motley Crue, there'd be no Steel Panther.
New York City or LA?
New York City.
JUI or DP?
He's been desperate to ask that.
Research.
He was desperate to ask that.
This guy really did do his research. I mean, JOI, hands down. I'm not even a DP fan. I never have been.
I was having to explain to him what it was before, and he was like, "Oh no." He's like, "How does that even come about?"
He's like, "This Jon Kilmer guy's a freak."
Beer pong or flip cup?
Beer pong. Flip cup is for the women.
Frat parties or nightclubs?
Frat party, hands down.
And I'll let you ask the final one, Alex.
The final one, and to be fair, I'll probably know the answer to this one. Who do you prefer, Alex or Blaine? Don't say threesome. I knew you were going to say that. Oh, hey. I'll tell you what, we'll see you in Texas then.
Oh man, it's been a pleasure, guys. And seriously, don't hesitate to ask me anytime to come back on the show. I'm happy to anytime.
Oh, we'll definitely happy to have you back. It's been so cool speaking to you. We've had an absolute blast tonight, or this afternoon for you.
Yeah,
so
and
thank you so much.
Thank you for taking your time out of your trip to Texas as well to speak to her.
Yeah, man. No, I had a blast. Thanks for asking me. I appreciate it.
And thanks for putting Mike on, and tell Mike thanks for coming on. And hopefully one day we'll get him on the podcast and we can interview him properly. Like, get him down, get some questions to him.
We need to get you boys at the next tour whenever that's happening.
100%. Hopefully, the borders have reopened by then.
Yep, definitely.
Definitely. But no, well, thank you very much. And thank you for taking your time out and doing this. And it's been a pleasure. And I'm sure that everyone that's listened to it will understand now at the beginning when we says the legend that is Jon Kilmer. It's a bigger than life character.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks a lot. And we'll see you next time. All right.
Yeah. Take care, man.
Cheers. Watch what you're doing.